Hi, my name is Dr. Brodoff, and I'm one of the clinical psychologists at the Center for Anxiety. Today I'm here to talk to you about how to parent an anxious child. And being a parent of an anxious child is not so easy. There are major things that your child might be afraid of that create long-standing patterns in your relationship with them. And then there are also little occurrences that happen probably all day long, from your child encountering something new, or even just trying to figure out what words to choose to help your child cope with what they're going through. And so the first thing I want to talk to you about is trying to identify what category you might fall into in terms of parenting pitfall. So the first one is being a protective parent. And all parents have to be protective in general of their children, especially when their children are very young. They rely on us to stay safe. But what I mean here is being really an overprotective parent, a parent who doesn't believe their child is capable of keeping themselves safe or coping with things that make them nervous. And they either step in when they may not need to and provide support or even do certain things for their child so they don't have to witness their child feeling anxious. And some examples of what this might look like, so you can identify if this feels like it's you, or at least you have some elements of this in your parenting style, can be thinking it's harmful for my child to feel anxious. It might be scarring or could damage my child if they feel too much anxiety. I want my child to feel good all of the time. Or my kid is just more vulnerable than other kids and he can't handle stress. So while protective parents care so much for their children and are usually very loving and sweet, they can actually send a message that isn't very effective to their children at a young age, suggesting that maybe they're not capable of coping on their own and unintentionally causing their child to rely too much on their parent for navigating stressful situations. The second pitfall is being a demanding parent. So just like all parents need to be protective in certain situations, all parents need to be demanding at times as well. In this case, this means that a parent is overly demanding in the sense of responding to their child when they're feeling anxious. So a demanding parent might expect that their child not feel anxiety at all or in certain situations, or they might demand that they not share or show their anxiety if they really are feeling anxious. And this can sound like, stop being such a baby, or she just needs to get a grip, or why are you making such a big deal out of this? It doesn't make any sense. Or look, watch me right now, I can do it. It's completely fine. Most kids are doing this too. So either approach, being a protective parent or a demanding parent when you have an anxious child, can be challenging as far as helping your child learn how to cope effectively with their anxiety. And either approach can work towards maintaining your child's anxiety. And so there are two elements that I want to highlight that can be helpful when thinking about how to respond to your child when they're scared about something. And so you want to focus on being accepting and being confident in their ability. So I can give you an example of a response that has both elements in the response. So one example is, I know it's really hard for you right now and you're feeling very scared. I also know that you're brave enough to get through this. Or I know that this is very hard and I also know that you're going to be okay. This way you show your child that you know that they're feeling scared. You validate their emotions, which can be really helpful at coping and managing emotions as well. And you also suggest and really show them that they can handle it. They're okay. And that can help kids face the things that they fear, which we ultimately want them to do. And so along with supporting your child in these two ways, being accepting and confident in their abilities, we also want parents to learn how to do less accommodation of their child's anxiety. And so what this means is trying to change their behavior so that their child doesn't feel anxiety at all, or maybe feels less anxious. And accommodation is not entirely bad. There are some times when parents can accommodate in a helpful way if it's helping their child move towards their ultimate goal of facing their fears. So I want to give you some examples of what helpful accommodation is and what unhelpful accommodation is. So if your child calls you every day when you're at work because they're anxious about your safety, unhelpful accommodation would be answering every call that they make to you and speaking to your child on the phone until they are totally calm. Helpful accommodation in this situation would be calling your child once every day. It's a planned call, your child knows about it, and that's it. That's one example of what it would look like to follow helpful accommodation. And so I do want to just make clear, reducing accommodation can be really challenging for both parents and kids at first. Children are going to be feeling more anxious, and parents feel more uneasy as well, knowing that their child is feeling more uncomfortable. So I'll wrap things up by saying that decreasing accommodation can be very hard for parents. Accommodation can help children and parents feel less anxious in the moment. And by not accommodating, you're making the choice to feel uneasy and for your child to feel uneasy. But this is what's really the most important thing for long-term ability to cope with anxiety.